Hello and welcome in. My name is Elizabeth Rose, and it is so nice to be in this space with you today. So, this specific episode is going to be about parts work, and more importantly, the Holy Trinity, the inner child, the inner mother, and the inner father. So often in healing spaces, I see the inner child brought up. Occasionally, I'll hear a bit about reparenting, but mostly just about getting back in touch with the inner child and fun and play. And while I do think that that is super important, most of my inner child work has been about reparenting her, reparenting the parts of me that didn't get what they needed when they were growing up, when they were developing their conditioning and their inner authority and their inner self talk. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. What I don't think most people understand is that the relationship that we have with ourself was largely implemented by the relationship that we had with our parents. The relationship that we have with ourselves today mirrors the relationship that we had with our parents growing up. So, when I'm talking about healing the mother and father wound, I'm not talking about actually healing the relationship with your own mother and with your own father. And while I have seen that happen as a result of healing the inner mother and inner father wound, that's not our objective. That's not our goal with this work. This work is about developing a relationship with your inner child, a relationship with your inner mother, and a relationship with your inner father. It's about developing those voices inside of us that were lacking when we grew up. Okay. This is how we reclaim our inner authority. So before we jump in, I just want to create like a sense of grounding, a sense of safety. So I just want you to go ahead. We're going to do a small practice. So go ahead and place one hand over your heart and one hand over your solar plexus or your belly, just above your belly button. Take a couple nice deep breaths here. Maybe close your eyes. Drop your shoulders from your ears. Release your jaw. Come to a place of center. And just ask yourself, what part of me is showing up right now? What part of me is showing up in my day to day? What part of me is showing up in my relationships, in my work? I really want you to start thinking about all the different parts that make you you. And this is how we begin that relationship within, going within, taking time to slow down, to slow our breath down, and to develop the relationship with all the different parts of us. We're going to get into a few of those parts more specifically in this video, just so you have a better understanding of what those different parts show up like, who they are, the most common ones. So go ahead and shake it out. Shoo. Release, release. We've now placed those questions in the field, and just be open to receiving those answers. Okay, we don't have to know the answers right away. Once we pose those questions, our guides, the field God, they're aware of our objectives and what we desire and what we want. So those answers will start to come in. And I have a super cool story about that actually, because right when I decided to create this video, like all different parts of myself started to show up. So I'm going to get into that. If you're here live, like please go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know from where you're dropping in. So yeah, I'm here with you, just so you're aware. So, like I said before, I see this idea of the inner child in so many different communities, right? And this idea of, hi, Sarah. Oh my God, lovely. It's so good to see you here with me. How exciting. So what I see is this idea of how important it is to incorporate play and fun, and that's like the inner child's desires, and that is very important work. But what I've found through healing the inner child, that the inner child is really an extension, an expression of my emotional body. Okay, so it has to do with my needs, my desires, what I'm feeling, what I want, all the different layers of the emotional body. Okay. And it's like even my fears, my sense of innocence, my longing to feel safe, loved, seen. So it's all these different parts. But the problem is the inner child cannot be the only one running the show, right? We don't want the inner child driving the car. We want to be aware of this part of us and listen to this part of us, but we also need to have our inner mother and our inner father online as well. Otherwise, we're in like a very wounded feminine energy, okay? Over emotional, yelling, screaming, dysfunction in our relationships, um, things of that nature, right? When we don't have the inner mother and the inner father online, then the inner child is really running rampant. So, this is like the heart of the teaching, right? Um, that while we do Yes, Sarah, you are so, so on point with that. That's what a lot of people miss. Exactly. Okay. And that's why we see a lot of like emotional and spiritual bypassing in the communities and things of that nature, because their inner child is running the show, and it's really sad to see. So I'm so glad that you're here with us. So when we get into the inner mother, well, first, let me back it up a little bit. So earlier, I was talking about how this relationship with our own inner mother and our own inner father is usually a mirror of the relationship that we had with our mother and our father when we were a child. So a lot of times, our inner mother can be extra critical, and we want to start to become aware of this part of us, or our inner father can be really judgmental or harsh with us, right? It really depends on the dynamics that we had in childhood. So really, I would start to ask myself, how was my relationship with my mom, and how was my relationship with my father? And that's how we can start to become aware of the relationship that we have with ourself in those aspects, right? Um, A healthy inner mother would have been a mother in childhood who provided us with proper mirroring. So that would have looked like when an emotion arose, she would have said something along the lines of, "Wow, you look really sad." And she would have embraced us with compassion and holding and soothing. Um, and that's really what a healthy mother figure would look like. And then the inner father is kind of like that he creates the container for our emotions. So while the inner mother is mirroring us and soothing us, the inner father is creating the sense of protection and guidance and leadership. So um, to really help you land this, I'm going to tell that story that I was talking about. So, yesterday, my washer broke, and it was right after I asked my son to start a load. So, immediately in my brain, my inner protector came online. And so I was thinking along the lines of, my son must have broken it, like anger was arising, things of that nature. However, I did not project that part of me onto my son because I'm aware that that's my inner protector, right? So I kind of just sat with that emotion, and I knew that that anger was really covering up a sense of disappointment and sadness. So I needed to dig a little bit deeper. And then I started to let those emotions arise. And I told my son, that's really disappointing. And I started to express those emotions because I was in touch with those emotions. And then as a proper parenting technique, I also told him, don't worry, we're going to fix it. It's, a lot of things break, it's not your fault. And so I gave him that compassion and that holding, and then I also went into that leadership role and expressed to him that we would figure it out. We'll find a solution, things of that nature. So a few different parts of myself showed up in that scenario. My inner protector showed up, my inner mother showed up, my inner child, and my inner father. And then I also sat with those emotions for a few minutes and decided to reach out to my brother, right? My brother is a general contractor. So a lot of times he has extra washers lying around. So I said, "Hey, do you have any extra washer machines laying around?" And I started going into my own inner leadership and solving the problem instead of just sitting in that emotion, in that victimhood, things of that nature. I went into fixing mode. Which is what the inner father does. He provides that sense of leadership, right? Um, my brother reached back out to me and said, I may have a washer and dryer here in a couple weeks. And I said, awesome. If you can, just have it delivered right to my door. And I asked for what I needed in that moment. And I allowed for him to be able to give to me, right? So he said, I'll figure something out. Don't worry. And then the very next day, he actually reached out to me and said, um, hey, what's your address? I'm just going to send you a washing machine. So he's literally sending a brand new washing machine right to my door. And I feel like super blessed to be able to receive that these days because there used to be a part of my inner child who was scared to ask for what she needed. I received a lot of neglect in childhood. So my inner child was one of really fearful. I expected to be disappointed, things of that nature. So it's taken a lot of work for me to be able to ask for what I need. But because I have developed that sense of inner mother and inner father, I don't stay in that broken childhood vibration. So what I have found is that dynamic that we have with ourself really continues to get mirrored to us in our environment. It's like if I have a toxic relationship with my inner mother and my inner father, then I'll also have toxic relationships with my my boyfriends, my friendships, my bosses. It's almost like the universe is reflecting back to me the dynamic so that I can become aware of it and so that I can begin to heal it. So it was really interesting too because in that story with my brother sending me a new washer machine, then I had the next thing to deal with was getting rid of my old washing machine. So I decided to put an ad on Facebook, and somebody replied to that ad pretty much right away. And I said, yeah, you can come get it tomorrow around 12 o'clock. And he said, that's great. And then another gentleman came into my inbox and said, hey, is it still available? And I let him know. Somebody's already called it for 12 o'clock, but if he doesn't come, I will definitely reach out to you. So then 12 o'clock comes today, and the first gentleman hadn't reached out, hadn't picked up the washing machine. So I reached out to the next gentleman and said, hey, if you want to come pick this up, you can at 1 o'clock. So I didn't sit in any type of energy of victimhood or um, even like feeling bad that I was moving on to the next person because I have that inner leadership online. I have developed a sense of safety within to be able to ask for what I need. And when somebody doesn't show up in integrity, I do not feel bad about moving on to that next person. The joys of Facebook Marketplace. You are so right, girl. But hey, I'm so glad that somebody was able to come and pick it up for free, hassleless. Like it was super nice. And the second gentleman ended up coming and picking it up, and we had a whole process in that situation too. Like he was so the joys of Facebook Marketplace, too funny. I actually gave it away for free, girl. I didn't sell it. I just wanted it out of here, honestly. So, and the door lock was broken. That was the part that broke on it. So, anyways, he, so the gentleman comes to pick it up, and um, he wasn't able to like get it out without pulling out the dryer. And I expressed to him, you can't pull out the dryer because the back hose is a little bit short. So he ended up trying to pull out the dryer and broke the hose or like broke it off of the back of the dryer. And I expressed my disappointment. I was like, oh my goodness, did you just pull that off the wall? And he was like, yes, I did. I didn't realize. And then I asked him, well, can you please reconnect it? So there was like a whole thing, of me like feeling the disappointment and then asking for what I need, you know? Um, so it was just a whole thing. I've been like witnessing all these beautiful parts of myself, and I could have gotten angry. You know what I mean? That inner protector could have come online and been like, oh my God, you broke it. Like, what are you doing? But I choose to listen to like that compassionate part of myself and the inner leader to the best of my ability. And I've also learned skills to do that with books like nonviolent communication. Like that's a huge, huge resource that I've used to develop this language for asking for what I need, right? For boundaries and things of that nature. So let's see here. So we talked about the inner child being the emotional body. We talked about the inner mother being that sense of mirroring and compassion. And then we talked about the inner father being the sense of direction and leadership, right? And when we have all three of these online, these are like the holy trinity. We will start to become aware of more parts of ourselves. But these have been like the main three that have landed in my body to the point of like really changing my reality because they've changed the nature of my relationships. They've changed the nature of the people that I allow in my life. And they've changed me to the point of being able to ask for what I need and to receive, right? Um, And another thing that I see in the healing space is like when people are talking about healing the mother and father wound, a lot of times healers are like forcing people to heal their external relationships with their mother and father. And I don't believe that that's the case. I actually completely cut off my relationship with my stepfather because he is such a toxic person and he's not somebody that I want in my life. And I do not need to have him in my life to have a healed father wound, okay? A healed father wound is about being my own inner father. It's about changing the relationship with my masculine energy, right? So I used to attract a lot of really emotionally abusive men and things of that nature because that was the relationship that I had with my father, and my reality continued to reflect that back to me until I really healed that father wound. And that healing that father wound wasn't about healing the relationship I had with my father. It was about healing the relationship I had with my own masculine energy. And it's crazy because once I started to heal my relationship with my leadership and my boundaries and my protection and my direction and things of that nature, that's when I really started to dive into my passion work, right? I started to feel safe enough to come on YouTube and talk about the things that I really desire and am passionate about. So we don't actually have to heal our external relationships with our parents to heal these internal wounds. So, at some point, creating this sense of inner authority is the work. It's not so much about revisiting our all the painful aspects of our childhood. It's more about healing the parts of us that didn't get what they needed, right? It's about creating inner authority, an inner voice that's compassionate and leadership oriented. It's about listening to the inner child and then giving the inner child what it needs, regardless of what our experience was in childhood. And then we're going to also get into this more deeply in the belief process that I've developed. So, in step 4, invite repair, this is where this work is we're going to really hone in on this work, right? Because when we're inviting that repair, we're really asking, what do we need? What did our inner child need in that moment? Um, You know, did it need the inner mother? Did it need the external mother that we never got, right? Did it need the compassion? Um, does it need the leadership? Does it need the boundaries? Like, what exactly is it that we need to heal that core wound and change our beliefs at the identity level? So, I'm super excited to get into it more deeply. Um, Yeah, I think that that's really all that I need to say. So, any questions or anything coming up for you? I would love to know. I'm actually a 3-5 in human design. So, my experience is my greatest teacher. And when people ask me questions, a lot of time that wisdom comes through. So, I'm would absolutely love if you have any questions, if you want to dive deeper into anything, if you have any clarification you need. I know there's like a 30-second lag too, so I'm going to go ahead and just give you a second. Another thing I would like to add as well is when I started to do this inner parenting work, that's really when my nervous system started to heal. Previously, I had leaned into like breath work and essential oils and things of that nature. And while I still use those tools, really healing my anxiety was about, and healing my nervous system was about developing a compassionate and leadership oriented voice within me. It was about allowing the inner child to express that anxiety and then guiding it, mirroring it. It's okay to feel this way. This is the first time that you've been on YouTube, or the seventh. Hmm, hmm. But you're going to do such a great job. And even if you do mess up, that's okay. Nobody is perfect. I love you no matter what. This aligns with our goals. This is something that could potentially bring so much fulfillment and so much happiness. Instead of just letting the inner child run rampant in that fear and leaving her alone there. Sarah, thank you. I appreciate you, girl. Well, my loves, it was so, so nice to be in this space with you. I look forward to our next conversation. I will be coming on live from California next week. And I hope that you have an amazing, beautiful Mother's Day weekend. I love you so, so much. I'll see you in the next one.